The other fact we have is the video evidence that's being presented as evidence has clearly been tampered with.
Law enforcement should have shown up and taped the scene.
Why didn't they?
And you know what's crazy?
Just like Butler.
Not one police officer went there and secured the crime scene.
We are supposed to believe that people are screaming and running in the quad around the corner.
Maybe more importantly is Larry's point that they disappear.
Yeah. And so does the shadow. Okay.
In the Charlie Kirk shooting, why is the FBI's narrative falling apart? Everybody's attacking it, and it seems like every single person's lying. So let's pull the truth out of the lies.
So there's some really weird stuff going on in this video where you can see that the shadow is there and then it disappears on the white part of the rooftop. What?
Okay, now as part of his lies, Range Day Bro here is trying to make you think that Charlie was shot from behind like this and that this is an exit wound.
And that leads us into the most likely scenario of how Charlie Kirk was shot, and that is, and I maintain, still from his back right, entering at the bottom of his hairline, striking his spinal column and brainstem before exiting out the front left side of his throat, piercing the skin, leaving a hole or a blood spot on the shirt, and then potentially being seen traveling through his knees.
See, because the strategy of all of these conspiracy liars is that if you can change the path of the bullet from the front like this, coming in like this and hitting Charlie in the neck, there's no other hole anywhere, then it's an entrance wound only. So you have to tear that apart and make it look like that didn't happen. So he's saying that the bullet came in from here and that this is the exit wound. The only problem here is that if that was an exit wound, then why wasn't anybody else next to Charlie hurt? There was a crowd all the way around him. Somebody else would have had to have been hit. And not only that, if this is an exit wound, why is there no flesh and everything coming out and flying out? All you saw was the blood come out from all those major vessels. So watch how Range Day Bro tries to use all of this science and visuals here to dazzle you and pull the wool over your eyes.
From being impacted by a high-velocity rifle round, most likely a 5.56. This extremely violent and fast expansion can be seen when slowed down to 10,000 frames per second on this ballistic gelatin test by ballistic high speed. You can see the gel balloon out.
Sorry, bro, 50,000 frame. Range Day Boy likes to show us this, and he likes to show us how the gel will expand 10 to 12 inches. Unfortunately, the neck does not do that.
Here is a ballistic dummy being shot at the same exact angle and distance as the alleged shooter with a 30-06. As you can see, the bullet easily clears the neck and also leaves a hole in the 2x4 behind it with plenty of energy left to go.
Okay, Range Day Boy, so why didn't that gelatin expand out like the other one did? 12 inches. So the only problem with his theory there is if you look at this thing, it's shaking around like a bowl of jello. This doesn't even come close to representing a human neck. Also, with some of these ballistic gelatins that are not even the 10% FBI versions. Remember, folks, you have skin here, you have fascia below it, you have muscle below that, and all of that resists that big expansion that they keep talking about. So you're not going to get the 12-inch expansion that he's trying to kid you with. And if you look at the shot through the neck here on the gelatin, where is the big expansion that he was talking about? And yes, people have gotten hit in the neck before and the bullets bounce around and they go everywhere or they get stopped. And sometimes they don't go out. Most of the times they do go all the way through. But it doesn't mean there's a conspiracy just because this time here, the bullet didn't go all the way through. There are more holes in Range Day Boy's story than in Charlie Kirk's neck. So we're going to use his own science against him. Because if he's trying to convince you that you have this big, huge, giant impact expansion of 10 to 12 inches, and if he's trying to tell you that the bullet came in and hit Charlie on the right rear of his head here, Charlie's head should have been blown clear off if you believe his story with his visuals here on what the bullet should be doing. Now, another problem, too, with all of these ballistic experts, you know, these guys that are out in the woods hunting and they're showing how they're shooting at these targets with the gelatin scales. The problem here is twofold here. The gelatin scale does not 100% represent a human being because those things are sealed up. You have 2 holes here in your nostrils, 1 hole here, 2 more holes here, and possibly 2 more even behind the eyes. So it doesn't even match the way your head would actually vent that kind of energy coming in there. Also, 100% of these guys, these hunters, when they shoot at this target, they're 100, 200 yards away, but they're level with it. They're at the same level. But everybody knows that the actual bullet probably came down between 5 and 10 degrees, probably closer to 9 degrees is the estimates I've seen from most people. So when you have a bullet coming at you at an angle that changes everything. It's not coming in just straight and clean. It's now coming in like this, and it's dropping, and it's losing speed, and it's doing this. And yes, even from that distance, it's losing a little speed, and it's going to do this. So that could also lead to the bullet being somewhat damaged or somewhat slowed down enough so that when it hit Charlie's vertebrae in the back of his neck, it was able to stop it there. And remember, this is not without precedence. In using Range Day Bro's own video sample against him, notice how the bullet travels across inside the gelatin, and it too has its path changed. You see that? Just from a very buttery gelatin. But think how much it could change if it hits into your neck and hits all the tendons and hits your vertebrae. Look how the bullet deflects after maybe 12 inches, but this is not a human neck. And then Range Day Bro, he's not bringing you any new evidence. He's trying to make it look like he's the one discovering all of this. All he's doing is copying all of the other conspiracy theorists.
Of him running across the roof, you realize that that video should have picked him laying down on the roof taking the shot. We don't get that video.
Then the FBI releases some CCTV footage of somebody running across the rooftop of the Lucy Center, but you don't see them laying down or taking the shot.
And then as he's running across the roof, his shadow disappears at one point.
So there's some really weird stuff going on in this video where you can see that the shadow is there and then it disappears on the white part of the rooftop. What?
Maybe these guys all get together with a Zoom call every day and go, okay, what do we want to come up with today? Because what we said yesterday was already debunked, so we need to keep coming up with new stuff to generate more clicks and more income and buy my merch.
Check out our merch, all that good stuff.
Okay, let's tackle this stupid issue about the shooter's shadow disappearing as he's running across the roof, escaping after killing Charlie Kirk, and why the liars are trying to make you think that this somehow means that the FBI is lying because you don't see his shadow. This reminds me of the crazy people who said that the pictures from the moon, why don't you see the stars in the background? They said it was fake. So there is the first part of their lie, because you can see his little shadow sticking there. And remember, the sun is almost directly overhead, so you're not going to see a whole lot of shadow. But remember that this color right here, this gravel roof, is probably the best case scenario for this camera right now, because you can see the most detail on the gravel roof than anything else. If you look at the white cars here, a good example would be this one here. You don't see the lines between the doors. Same with this one. Same with this SUV over here. You can't see the lines between the doors. Why can't you? You should be able to see it. Look, here's a black car. I can see the line between the doors on that one. I can see the lines on this red car. I can see the lines on this black car. But the white cars you can't, because the white overpowers the charge coupled device inside the camera. All right, so let's send him across the roof there. See, you can see a shadow. You can see it. You can see it. And keep in mind, too, he's running on gravel right now. The gravel is going to be aimed in all different directions, and it's going to want to kind of diffuse the light a little bit. So that's why the shadow is not as dark as you would see down here on the ground, even though, look, even on the ground, you could see the lines right through the shadow. So the shadow is not as dark as you think. The shadow is not supposed to be a black shadow. They're supposed to be gray. But here, it's being scattered by the gravel, too, but you can still see it. So anybody that says he's running across the roof and not leaving a shadow is just absolutely lying. You can see his shadow right there. Now watch what happens when he gets to the white. Now see, you can see his feet here touching because this part of the roof is not overexposing the camera. Now watch what happens when he gets onto the white part of the roof. You can still see his shadow there. He's going to step over and onto it. Oh, I saw it for a brief second right there, right on the ledge of it. I saw it. Now watch. He's going to step up and over, and oh my gosh, where's his feet? His feet are gone. Oh no, the FBI did something. You know, this is where people's stupidity comes in. So right now, he stepped off of a pretty good neutral color onto a super bright white membrane that is now reflecting most of the light back up to the sun. And it's overloading the sensor on the camera. That's why you can't even see his feet, because it's so bright right down at the bottom there that it pretty much obliterated everything over there that's moving, especially moving. And make no mistake about it, folks, he is still casting a shadow, but the camera just can't pick it up at this moment in time. So this CIA expert, I just... I'm at a loss of words, folks.
And then as he's running across the roof, his shadow disappears at one point.
Because with this kind of lossy compression with H.264 video compression for these MPEG-4 videos, this is what you get. It's an extremely lossy storage format. Now let's move him over a little more and let's see if we can see anything, because I know I saw his shadow a little bit on the white part of the roof even. So he's running across. So now what's compounding the issue is now, because the FBI was presenting this video at a press conference to let everybody see this for the first time. And so they zoomed in here. And so he's zooming in, which adds to the compression woes. But watch this. You're going to see it in a second. There's part of his shadow right there. See it? See that little horizontal stripe right there? That's part of his shadow. But since the FBI zoomed in so much here, you can see how the roof line is jagged, and then you're seeing this purple artifacting on there. That's very common with H.264 with JPEG compression. So you're not going to see a whole lot of accuracy, but there I can see his shadow. Watch it move. Now watch his shadow move as we step along. See, now it just got longer. So when people are telling you that there's no shadow on the roof, they're just lying through their teeth. And they're hoping you're too stupid to look it up. But when you come to channels like mine here, and I always seek the truth, folks, you get the truth. You see it right there for your own eyes. So you know these people are just a bunch of morons that are just spewing out lies. It's not even conspiracy theory. It's just lies. Okay, and you can see even the shadow of the tree because it's not moving, so it's able to stay there and maintain. So watch his shadow as we go along and move along. It's still there. I can still see it. You're going to see his shadow move along here and go up the side of the roof, this little angled edge, as he gets closer to the edge. See, it's getting closer. See, the shadow's moving. So anybody that says there's no shadow up on that roof, they're just lying. Okay, and watch, you're going to see it migrate right up this little angled part a little bit. See, right there, there it is again. Shows up there. That's his shadow right there. He's standing there figuring out, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to get down? So what I just showed you here was just a little bit of basic science. Nothing esoteric here. But when you have people whose intelligence level is way down here, and they're trying to fool everybody else who they think is below them, well, you see what's going to happen. But anybody with an IQ over 70 could easily tell that there is nothing wrong with the shadow. And in the couple of seconds that you maybe couldn't see, it's because the camera's sensors were overexposed. Now, I want you to check out this scene here from the PBD podcast from the other day. Now, they used some of my clips last week. They didn't give me credit, but I'm going to give them credit. But watch what they're saying, and it's just totally, this is just utter stupidity and lies.
I'm just trying to figure out with this type of magnitude, and you know what's insane? For how many minutes after, not one police officer went there and secured the crime scene. I've watched multiple videos. I've watched aftermath of videos. I saw people coming and stealing hats off a truck and throwing them. Some guy's like, what the hell are you doing? There's no way this type of cover up. And the fact that when you
that's a fact that you
and you know what makes it more convincing? If you're super hyper and you're going like this and you're shaking your hands and you're all excited, that must make it all the more legitimate, right?
law enforcement should have shown up and taped the scene.
Why didn't they?
And you know what's crazy?
Just like Butler.
They were
Why
there, though.
didn't they?
I don't know, but you know what's crazy, Pat? I saw a cop. One cop basically had his gun drawn while they were bringing Charlie, God rest his soul, to the vehicle.
Somebody get that man a cup of coffee. Stat. Really? Only one cop? Boy, these guys are really lying. Check this out. Okay, so here's from Adam Bartholomew's YouTube page, and he was doing a live stream while this was happening. So let me show you what's about to happen here, because he was definitely just seconds after this ended, and you can see that the police are indeed walking through here, and they are indeed kicking people out and taping everything off. And there's a lot of police and armed security. See, he just told them to clear out right there, this officer. So for them to say that there was no cops anywhere, they're just completely lying. There's another cop right there, see? So they are indeed actively clearing out. So anybody that says there was no police is just lying. See, they're pushing everybody out of there. Here's the cop right there.
I'm getting out of here.
These are all armed security guys right here. You'll see they'll have their guns out, some of them. 3 cops over here.
Go, guys, move that way. Go.
Now remember, a lot of these staffers were sitting back here behind the tent before the shooting. So some of them probably still are not aware that Charlie was shot. There's another cop right there. So remember, anybody that may have been standing behind that tent probably might not be aware that he was shot. Maybe they saw him being carried off, but they don't know the gravity yet. There's a security guy right there, undercover.
Safety teams here. I just heard them say the active shooter, Charlie Kirk, has been shot. Charlie Kirk got hit, is what the security detail just said.
Now, let me just back it up a little bit here. So, if they're just now finding out and getting confirmation that Charlie was hit, these guys here probably don't know that this is about to become an international scene. They're probably thinking, oh, okay, Charlie got whisked away, the event's over, let's start tearing down. And you know they're going to get on top of this chair and pull that card out so that when the investigators get here, they can give them the video, because this probably had the clearest shot of anything. And as far as we know, I didn't see him touch this camera on this tripod, which was directly in front of Charlie. And I remember seeing the girl there operating that camera. And then there was another camera over here as well. So we know the FBI has some pretty good quality video of really what happened. And for all of these people that want to claim that Charlie was sitting right here and the shot came from behind him to his right, who in the heck is going to be able to see, to shoot through this backdrop here and to be able to hit him? That's just utter nonsense. And not only that, behind Charlie was dozens of staffers and students that he had met up with in a group for a group photo right before the event started. Everybody was hanging around back here. So you're going to tell me that somebody here shot behind him through this? It's just complete, total ridiculousness. Doesn't make sense at all, people. Yeah, see, so there's a uniformed cop right back there. These two guys are armed and they're guarding the scene, and they're pushing everybody out of there. So anybody that claiming there was no cops is just completely, totally lying. See, you got a cop right here pushing people away. Got another one down here, another one over here.
The guy who was arrested, I got a photo of. Yeah?
Hey, keep the police harassed that way.
Okay, all right. You want to give it to UBU.
So you can see the area really is filling up with police officers. Look, I see the yellow tape right here. You see that? Oh, look, there's more yellow tape down there, too. More of the yellow tape over here that they said wasn't put in place. And looks like there's some down here as well, too.
Law enforcement should have shown up and taped the scene.
Why didn't they?
And you know what's crazy?
Just like Butler.
See, so this is the tent Charlie was in. He was sitting right here when he was shot. So this entire area is closed off, folks. You see that? There's your yellow tape. And they're going, well, how come there's no people there doing the investigation, blah, blah, blah. Well, hello, morons. Whenever you have a crime scene like this, you don't want people walking in and out of there all over the place. You try to do whatever you can from outside. So for these people that are saying there's no police there, there's no investigators, here's some of your police vehicles here. Here's more over here. I see some over here out on the perimeter road. I see more over here. And remember, the entire campus is closed now. They kicked everybody out. Here's your investigators. They're right over here. And I think I had counted something like 12 of them there. But let's see if we can get a closer view in a second here when it gets close. So they're showing, there's all the yellow tape that they said wasn't there. More lies.
Law enforcement should have shown up and taped the scene.
Why didn't they?
And you know what's crazy?
Just like Butler.
Okay, so I'm seeing a group of 3 people right there, investigators. Probably another group of 3 there, another group of 3 there. So there's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 up here. And then this right here, it's a little hard to tell, but it looks like it's something on a tripod. So this is most likely the LiDAR that they use to digitally measure and laser map the entire area, because they want to do the outside area first, because they could be fighting weather. If rain moves in, you're screwed. There goes a lot of your evidence. Okay, so let's see. And then, oh, do we have anybody else up here? So you can see them a lot clearly. There really is a fair number of investigators up there right now. And there's more yellow tape over here that the guy said did not exist.
Not one police officer went there and secured the crime scene.
Now it's going to pan over. Here's the Losi building. This is where their shooter was right here. There's yellow tape up on the roof. More yellow tape that he said didn't exist. And here's probably at least a half a dozen investigators up there standing back up there on the roof that he claimed didn't exist. And I'm willing to bet there's probably more inside some of these lobbies or back on the other side on the Hall of Flags.
Not one police officer went there and secured the crime scene.
Because when people are lying, they're of course not going to show you things like this. But here you can clearly see the whole area was yellow taped off. And how many markers do they really need? Probably only where the guy was. Like, I think he initially laid down over here and realized he needs a closer or better shot and got up and ran over to here. So as they zoom in there on that whole taped in area, I'm trying to see if there's any other... See, now here's like a command post and another police car, and there's a bunch of investigators right there. So far we've got probably almost 36 investigators. Here you can see cop cars here.
Not one police officer went there and secured the crime scene.
That have the area closed off. And remember where the shooter ran. He ran off this way, which I think we're going to see it in a few seconds, off to the left. So there you see police cars up there, and it's going to come back around here, and you can see there are still police cars all over around the front there. So this whole area is sealed off. I mean, nobody's getting in here, folks. And like I said, there's probably people in here, and there's more vehicles back here. So let's see. So he's back on the Losi Center here, and there's a state trooper standing right there. So here's more of the police that they kept saying wasn't there. No police there. There's no investigators there. So after the shooter did the shooting, he came running around this side here of the atrium, which is where, if you saw earlier when I was showing you, you could see him running through the windows because the video camera is way over here that the FBI used. So he came running around this way, and this is the white part of the roof that he stepped on where the people said his shadow disappeared.
And then as he's running across the roof, his shadow disappears at one point.
But I showed you clearly his shadow did not disappear. It just got muted by the overloaded camera sensor. And then this is the corner of the building where he jumped off over here. So he started over here, ran across this way, jumped over here, and ran over here towards the perimeter road. Right here where the arrow was pointing, that's where that video camera is located that captured the view across the parking lot of the shooter jumping off of this part of the roof here. And then he ran across these trees here over to the perimeter road and then into this clump of trees right there is where the gun was dropped off. Now, as far as those people disappearing down the sidewalk, so some of the people probably came out of the Losi building and were walking down this sidewalk, and they turned and went here. And when they turn and go down this sidewalk, it's obscured from this camera. So that's why people thought, oh, people are disappearing from the video.
And then you can see people on the ground in the background walking, and they all of a sudden disappear. So,
oh, the FBI did something wrong. They forgot, blah, blah, blah. It just shows just complete lack of intelligence. Okay, now check out this here from the Redacted News channel. And I know these people are trying to make themselves look like they're all professional and everything, but clearly there's no knowledge going on here. They're interviewing this guy that used to be a Central Intelligence agent and a rifle instructor, but doesn't seem to quite have so much intelligence here. Watch this.
See, you can see that person in the very, very back that's just walking on the sidewalk. And
yes, these people have bothered me for a long time because at this point, we are supposed to believe that people are screaming and running in the quad around the corner.
But maybe more importantly is Larry's point that they disappear.
Yeah. And so does the shadow. Okay, right.
Yeah. Look, it's like, where'd they go?
Yeah.
Where does the shadow go,
Scotty?
So there's the scene she's talking about. You can see half the people are running, but half the people are just walking very casually slow. So there's not the panic she's trying to show you. And I'll show you again, look at the people on the far right. The farther they get to the right, the more they slow down. So by the time they're over by the Losi building, they're already walking normal speed. So now she's trying to use the fact that somebody's walking slow a couple of 100 yards away out of the danger zone as somehow that's some sort of causality that the FBI is lying here. Where's the intelligence here?
We are supposed to believe that people are screaming and running in the quad around the corner.
Yeah, so back here, see, here's another clump of investigators right here. So there actually is quite a few investigators on the scene here right now. And, you know, you hear the same thing at every shooting. They did the same thing at Butler last year. How come there's no investigators? Why is nobody there? Why did they clear up the scene so quick?
Law enforcement should have shown up and taped the scene.
Why didn't they?
And you know what's crazy?
Just like Butler.
Dude, it doesn't take long at all. Pretty much overnight at the very most. But when you're outside, you know, at a scene like this, they can clear this scene in just a matter of hours. And remember, this drone footage was taken 5 hours after the shooting. So pretty much what they do is they get all the evidence they need, they bag it, tag it, and take it back and do all of their research back in the lab. They don't really do much research on it here. Unless, let's say, they find a rifle right here. They'll photograph it and everything and determine if this was the rifle. And then they'll go and do all their ballistics tests. But, you know, you can clearly see here there's plenty of investigators here and that these guys were just lying about it. Yeah, and Charlie's SUVs were parked right here behind them. So why are they lying like this? Well, guess what, folks? Conspiracy theory, even though this is not even legitimate conspiracy theory, this is conspiracy fabrication. But regardless, conspiracy theory is a very profitable business. There's a lot of people out there that eat this stuff up because they're dumber than the people that are actually making this stuff up. So it's very easy to convince people Americans are so gullible. All you have to do is say FBI and narrative in the same sentence, and you've got people going off on tangents here like this.
Law enforcement should have shown up and taped the scene.
Why didn't they?
And you know what's crazy?
Just like Butler.
And it's just so easy to trick them, and it's big business. I mean, these types of videos bring in way more than mine do. You see, I'm here about the truth. Nobody cares about the truth. They want to hear the nonsense. They want to hear that Charlie Kirk was shot by his own inside people, by his own wife, by the Israeli intelligence, by anything that they can throw out there and make it stick. And every time something gets debunked, they then come up with new ones. Have you noticed that they keep coming up with new and new and new? And every day they say, there's new evidence today. There's no new evidence. They're all using the same clips from 2 minutes after the shooting. And why am I the only person that brings this one up, folks? Hello, everybody. Martin Luther King assassination. Who all remembers that? Of course, none of these guys know it because they're probably too young. But Martin Luther King was assassinated with a 30-06 bullet. That is indisputable. That was on the coroner's report. And that was almost the same distance from across the street from a boarding house. And he was hit with that 30-06 bullet, and it came in 1 inch away from his mouth, through his cheek, shattered his jawbone, went down his neck, so it made like a 90-degree turn there, went down into his shoulder, caused a little bit of damage in there, broke into 3 parts, and 2 of them stayed inside and 1 of them shot out of his back, but it all stayed within the clothing. So that shot, you would think, would have gone right straight all the way through. But sometimes they don't. And you know what? It depends on the bullet. And none of these guys that are doing these ballistic tests, they're not showing you what bullet they're using. Is it a full metal jacket? Is it a higher grain with a higher weight? Maybe that's why it's causing more damage. He could have been using a softer metal or hollow point, and those are made to pretty much crumple on impact and cause them a lot of damage inside. So you can see their strategy is to try to say this wasn't a 30-06 bullet. And by doing that, if you can accomplish that, then you can remove the bullet from the equation, you can remove the rifle from the equation, you can remove the shooter from the equation, you can say that the FBI is lying, and it brings you a lot more money, and you can sell more merch.
Check out our merch, all that good stuff.
Now, a lot of people are coming up with all sorts of gimmicks to explain why Charlie's shirt puffed up like it did. But I have a feeling that the true experts are going to come out and tell us it has more likely to do with bow shock and turbulent low-pressure wake of the bullet. Now, the bow shock affects the bullet at the front, and then that wake at the back there is usually about the diameter of the bullet. And it usually sucks in air behind it after the expansion closes, which all takes place in milliseconds. So, what's interesting here is you could say that Range Day Boy probably has no credibility now. We've shown how wrong he is on every point, and it's indisputable that he's incorrect. And so you're probably thinking, what's wrong with this guy? Well, you know what? Who cares? He's laughing down at the bank. So Range Day Boy's video that I showed you last week in Debunked, he was at 5.8 million views when I showed it to you. He is now at 6.4 million views. And if you remember, I did that computation for you to show you how much I figured he made, and now estimated his income to be at about $30,000. Well, there's an update now, folks, because with 6.4 million views, I'm calculating he's earned a quick $33,554. Come on down. Well, as usual, folks, keep those questions coming. And you're always going to get the truth when you come here, okay? I know how to debunk these folks. I know how to poke holes through their lies. And thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see all of you on the next one.